I am Alberto. I have been working in the art since the first of 90s, and the first both as an artist, as a manager, especially in my 51st years. Now only artist, usually. But for me, it's a bit difficult to define what I do, but more or less it's a hybrid practice in dialogue or relationship with the physical and socio-political space with which interacts, with the art interacts. I prefer use the definition of one writer in my last catalogue, is Daniel García Andújar, and he says, Alberto Lomas is a creator whose works explore the interconnection between technology, language, and contemporary socio-political tensions. I go for parts. Place, for me, is especially the post-Franco in Euskadi, or post-fascist regime in Spain, in Basque Country in particular. With the armed struggle or pro-independence terrorists, for one on the one hand, and the dirty war of our state or terrorists of a state for the other. I am not fond, I go to read that, I am not fond on any nationalism, especially if it's legitimized through armed struggle. I think it all the more repugnant when it comes from a state terrorist than claimed to be democratic. That is one of the situation more harder for me in the West. More recently is the contrast between the Iraqi Kurdistan and South Korea, because they have two antagonist evolutions from one traditional identity space that one new situation where they are saved by the USA. Is also one kind of contrast interesting for me, and defining a little my works. About people, one of my references is my father. My father was a brilliant musician and pedagogue, but also he has a chronic psychological illness that conditions our lives. I think for better, but difficult. He taught us the love of music and the value of culture and art. And if I speak about my father, I need to speak also about my mother. My mother was a woman who has come to terms with the reality of being married to a person with this chronic illness, and with 4 children when when she was only 26 years. In this situation, I believe that her feminist tendency become an inescapable model of action involving all of his children, of me and my brothers in the housework, for example, and in other situations not really common in Spain in the 60s. Another influence, as proximity, is the artist Morquillas. I dedicated my last catalogue because who resisted the censorship in Basque Country during years, and it's really interesting. I don't like, I can speak more, but we can change and the experience. The experience, one or definitely experience in the start of my life is in that years, the self-management in Basque Country as a response of the repression that the state was systematically applied. My first steps are in the free radio in Alabedi. Is one model of radio with a market tendency like a do-yourself, with the influence of the punk. Later, I have, after the university, we formed the association En Canal, and then the association Espacio Visual, and the both are reference of the alternative art in Basque Country. In one moment, I collaborated until more than 5 associations at the same time. In that moment, I had a strong crisis, and I abandoned the artist work for 10 years, making very, very few occasional incursions, only one or two. The tendency to question boundaries, be they artistic disciplines, be they geopolitical border, be they interface. Another idea, that is the first, one of the first ideas, of the central idea. The other idea is the idea of social control through technology. And now the concern for the right of humanity from intolerable extractivism and continuous growth perspective, which out his ways to collapse provokes innumerable horrors with gratuitous human suffering, such as war or forced migrations. I am working. They are these three ideas, especially the first, the tendency of the question, the boundaries, are central in my work. Well, normally, when I start a new project, it's for exterior success. Maybe one residence, like now, maybe one application, maybe one commission. Usually, for the last 10 years, I think, I start one process of research with different ways, with different ways together. previous experience, obviously, a lot of readings, books, internet reports, interviews, a lot of field work, conversations, experimentations with the space, with the context, and with the materials. I go seeing, but maybe can be another exhibitions, fields, songs. Is when you are focused in a new work, usually all is good for your work. I think that the instinct is one thing who become when you are working. It's not, you have what background, and when you are working, focusing one idea, you go to find in one moment one special clip or to start. I think that I go to explain this after, but my method is also what kind of game of experimentation also. And I use the media which I need for one idea that become in the experience of creation. So usually use technology, but not always obvious. In the 80s and 90s is always new technology, but what is new technology now? And I like use also things for maybe natural, maybe artificial, but from the context where I work. For example, here I go to use this ball and plants, and also the LEDs, and in the 10 last years I am using a lot the words. Also, I don't know if it is one kind of material is that. There are a lot of years. I started in the paint practice. For me, I abandoned it very quickly. Despite I have a relative success, but I need to have an interaction with the other. The life of the painter is too alone, and I come from one generation where we have one sentence as I think that I have this sentence here. Alone I can't, with friends yes. And I worked in my first times in group. The fact we make one group, Proyecto Mostra, in the university, and we are artists from different disciplines and from different courses, and we make the same work, and we show the same work for all the professors. This is the speech. We are repudiated in one moment for that, but finally we are the representation of the faculty in the first biennial of faculties in Europe, and we have this kind of tension. Then, when I started to work alone, I have a lot of methodologies and techniques about this work in group. Actually, also. Actually, I make things for different projects. Yes, I changed because now, in my first times, is what kind of model of assembly, and now, usually when I am the boss of one work, I have this model of assembly, but I am the boss in my work. As we are in Poland, I go to take one reference from Poland, but because they are the three really important in my life. One is Tadeusz Kantor, because in the first of my work, in my first performance, I have one reference, La Fuga del Baus from Catalonia, and they have like a reference and so Tadeusz Kantor. Also, another reference is Christoph Bodysko. I know Christoph Bodysko in my first residency, artist residency in Basque Country in Arteleku, directed by Antoni Muntadas, who is another reference also. More recently, one writer here, from here, is with origin from here, that is Sigurd Baumann, especially with one book about the identity, and his last book, before that he did, about the migrations. In general, well, I have the typical artists, Bruce Nauman, sería another, Joseph Beuys, I don't need what, Barbara Kroer, Boltanski, Jenny Holzer. There are a lot, really. These are maybe the most obvious reference. And like in my last year, this 10 last year, I read a lot. Giorgio Agamben is one of my more interesting. Marta Peirano is a Spanish reporter who asks about the reality and the technology really good. Nawel Sadawi is a feminist from Moseley. I don't know, they are a lot. Wendy Brown, for example, about the borders. And they are write books, and I read more than once in the last years. More or less, I can put more in the table, but they are a lot of reference. Also, for example, in the 90s, I work with installation, but I made more performance with technological materials. Then I stopped 10 years, I saw, and after that I focus my work more in installation, public interventions, and with more use of the language, more I don't know. I focus my vision. I don't in social problems or political problems always, but more especially last years, the use of more recently, the use of the technology is not in the front, maybe always is, but it's not the central question. I don't know, there are a lot of change, but I think that there are a lot of change with 1 or 2 lines of reference always. For example, the limits, the question of the limits, the evolution of the men in this second and the other century, the 20th century, they are the central questions. When I arrived to this city, to Szczecin, I have several options in mind. In the first moment, I go to, but all the options have the idea of border, and I like it. I want use vegetable elements. And my first time I walk a lot in the city, and then I asked for 2 books. I begin to buy some books because in the residence I like use the residence for read books for. And in one of these books, I discovered one person, paradigmatic, the Von Braun. He was born in one city close of Szczecin, and I discovered that I researched a lot about this man, and I discovered that this man is what kind of man with a lot of contradictions, but it's also the reference for people in the power, for the new boss of this neo-feudalists, like Elon Musk or like Jeff Bezos. And I started to work around this person, and with different strategies, or some strategies usually in my work, like the write in 3D, in manual, for use this material for interventions with light, with another things, but also I like, for example, what kind of retrofuturist, because these men work making rockets for Hitler, and also after the war he make the rocket to the moon, and it's what kind of really big contradiction. I like to be one aesthetic, like retrofuturist. I think in the neon, and put in relation the neon with the vegetables, like is also one kind of contradiction, because the central question of this work is that the men go to the frontiers of the space because they don't have more resource in the earth, but at the same time they are another tendency that I don't know, it's a difficult. They are another book is a terrible wonders when another person, I don't remember now, another scientist, also more close to the border with German, and now the I don't know.
Okay.
No, I don't remember the name, but he is another controversial scientist. Fritz Haber is another scientist born in German, but now is Poland. He is the responsible at the same time for the first chemical weapons used in the First World War, and then in the times of extermination for Hitler, but also he discovered the nitrogen fertilizers. One of the last times, he thinks he has a really terror, but not because her chemic arms, did a lot of people. No, because she has horror because he thinks that the plants go spreading throughout the world. I don't know if I explain good, but that is the relation, is this tension. When the hair without the man maybe can can be more green than now. That is and the position in the world is this two question, no? They are here one structure with one of the question of the sentences of this man, of this first man, von Braun. Von Braun is the paradigm of this kind of men who use the technology without moral, without. When he is working for Hitler, he knows that they have slave labor, and when the war finished and people asked, he say the future will absolve Jews, because he is sure, and I think that this that Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, they are sure that they are the good for the humanity. In this world, I go to put this sentence: the future will absolve Jews, but with what little mistake who changed this sentence to future, the future will absorb Jews. This kind of mix that I explain better in the work than speaking. And the other intervention is about my writing in 3D in manual. I want to use one text about all this story for make what kind of moon or maybe another organization for put all the of this sentence like intervention with words in the walls. with the shadows. More or less, it's better show what that. I think that I go to work more with this kind of neons, but my project, my new project is. Oh, okay. It's in Kurdistan next month, with reference also to the climatic change, to the migration. I got to make one intervention in the street in Sulaymaniyah. And then in the same city, I go to make one installation in car gallery in tobacco factory. Is one big place for art in Kurdistan. I think that I like working about this kind of after focusing of the Von Braun paradigm. I want to explore other contemporary paradigms similar and begin a process of destruction. I think that in this month, I think about a lot the paradigm of the archetypes. Maybe because I am living only with women, I don't know, but. All the paradigms are supported for what kind of archetype in which the referent is usually a white heterosexual Western male. I like this kind of research about that. More or less can be my lines, but I don't know where I go. I know that after searching I go to Kurdistan, but then I don't go more. I don't know more. I make one, but I don't know if it's ridiculous or it's interesting. I have, where is that? I make, where is? Don't now play. Where is? Art is what keeps you alive, thanks to or in spite of philosophy, or more simply, art is play, language, and experimentation.